Week 1 of the NFL season is officially over, and now we are on to week 2. Do not worry, guys. All of our favorite teams still have a chance to win the Super Bowl. With that being said, I am going to predict every single game in week 1. Last week, I was one player pick away from winning $2,000. Damn you, Bears offense. I did not know that Caleb Williams was going to end up doing stuff like this. But I am testing my luck again, dropping $100 on a 5-player pick'em with a chance to win $2,000, and I'll reveal my picks at the end of the video. Our first matchup is Thursday Night Football, Bills at Miami Dolphins. Last week, the Buffalo Bills beat the Arizona Cardinals, but it started out rough for Josh Allen. He had a fumble on his very first drive. And for a moment, it seemed like the Cardinals had a shot. But the Bills did prove that they still have an elite defensive line with Gregory Rousseau, related to the philosopher Jean-Jacques Rousseau. And it seems like Josh Allen can still score touchdowns without Stephon Diggs yelling at him. Last week, the Dolphins matchup against the Jaguars was supposed to be the matchup of the two most overpaid quarterbacks in the NFL. But instead, Tyreek Hill's traffic stop incident made all the headlines. But honestly, a lot of people are forgetting that this was a rough game for the Dolphins. If the Jags don't have this costly fumble when they're about to score, then the Jags would have been up 24-7, and the Dolphins would not have won this game. So this time, I do not see the Dolphins getting that lucky. I think the only way the Bills lose this game is if the refs and Roger Goodell feel bad for Tyreek Hill due to the traffic stop incident. So I have the Bills beating the Dolphins 24-21. For each of these games, I'm going to be picking my yard dogs. These are one guy from each team that I think will go higher on yards. I'm picking playmakers only. For the Bills, I got James Cook going higher than 61 rushing yards. And because of all the controversy, I gotta take the cheetah Tyreek Hill going higher than 94 receiving yards. Next up, we have the Buccaneers traveling to Detroit to face the Lions. This is basically going to be a preview of a future NFC playoff game. Last week, the Lions won a nail-biter against the Los Angeles Rams. Quite frankly, I think the Lions lucked out because the Rams had injuries to their offensive line, allowing the Lions to take advantage of that. The Buccaneers absolutely smoked the Washington Commanders, but the Commanders have a brand new quarterback, brand new head coach. They look to be rebuilding this year. Baker Mayfield is probably enjoying life, laughing at the Cleveland Browns right now. But in this game, the Detroit Lions are hands down the better team. Former Bucs cornerback Carlton Davis is now on the Lions, and I think he's going to provide them some good intel about the Bucs. Just between you and I also think that the Bucs' 9-8 season last year is highly overrated, and people just hype it up because they beat the locker room divided Eagles in the playoffs. So I'm predicting that the Lions absolutely smoke the Buccaneers 30-20 at home. Sorry, Bucs fans. For my yard dogs, I'm picking Sam Laporta for the Detroit Lions, the tight end, to go higher than 52.5 receiving yards. For the Bucs, I gotta pick Mike Evans going higher than 70.5 receiving yards. Yo, I wanted to tell you about the sponsor of today's video, Underdog, where you could win money on sports. The Underdog app is growing fast, and I especially love their pick'em game, where you can pick whether your favorite players will have a higher or lower stat total in this week's game for a chance to win big. You can win up to 1,000 times your money in just one night. Personally, I love doing this for games that I'm not emotionally invested in because I could just sit back and watch to see if my pick win. Plus, for week 2 of the NFL season, Underdog has tons of promos every single day of the week, so make sure you don't miss those. Check out this map to see if Underdog is available in your area. Shout out to my home state of California, where it is available. Watch me sweat out my picks in some of my upcoming live streams, and make sure that you sign up with my promo code WiFi to get up to $1,000 in bonus offers. Simply go to underdogfantasy.com or download the app in the Apple or Google Play Store and use my promo code Wi-Fi for a special free pick plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash. So what are you waiting for? Check out Underdog and remember to play responsibly and use code Wi-Fi. Next up, we have the Colts traveling to Lambeau Field to face the Green Bay Packers. I hate to break it to Packers fans, but I think their playoff season is completely over now that Jordan Love was injured in this past game against the Philadelphia Eagles. And to be quite honest, even when Jordan Love was in the game, their offense struggled tremendously to move the football. Malik Willis is in line to be the starting quarterback for the Packers this week, and I hate to say it, but man, the season is completely over for the Packers. You're going to have to look till next year. Jordan Love is projected to miss 3 to 6 weeks. You cannot lose that many games and expect to be a playoff team. Matt LaFleur is still trying to not rule Jordan Love out, but who is he fooling, man? We all know he's not going to play in this upcoming game. Last week, the Colts almost shocked the world and beat the Houston Texans at home. Quarterback Anthony Richardson looked like who we expected him to be, a guy that can make some plays with his legs, rush for over 50 yards, and also throw some long bombs, but only complete 9 passes. So I am predicting a rough day for the Green Bay Packers. I have the Colts winning this game 21-17, hands down. For my yard dogs, I think both teams are going to run the football and rely on their backs. I'm taking the higher on Josh Jacobs going higher than 64.5 rushing yards, and also Jonathan Taylor going higher than 78.5 rushing yards. Next up, we have the Jets traveling to face the Tennessee Titans. It does seem like the Titans are already an absolute disaster. Will Levis had a nightmare performance against the Bears, and now we already have a viral photo of him emerging after throwing a pick 6. Head coach Bill Callahan is already throwing his quarterback under the bus. He was quoted at a press conference saying that maybe they would have won the game if they had punted every time on 1st down and 10. On the bright side, the Titans defense is going to be a problem this year, and Tony Pollard did a good job on the ground. The Jets had a tough task against the 49ers in Aaron Rodgers' first game in over a year. And everyone wants to hate on Aaron Rodgers because of his political opinions, because of his darkness retreats and ayahuasca, but I think he proved in this game that he is still a top quarterback, even though he's in his early 40s. What really bit the Jets in the ass was some of the rough turnovers. Look, I think the Jets are going to keep getting better the more their offense continues to have game reps with each other. And honestly, the Titans look like they have way too many problems on offense. I wouldn't be surprised if a quarterback change happens soon. So I have the Jets winning this game on the road 24-17 against the Titans. For my yard dogs, I'm picking Tony Pollard for the Titans going higher than 49.5 rushing yards. He easily beat that last week. And for the Jets, I think this time Garrett Wilson is going to have more receiving yards than Allen Lazard. I'm taking the higher on 69.5 receiving yards for Mr. Wilson. Now we have the San Francisco 49ers on the road against the Minnesota Vikings. It looks like Christian McCaffrey, the star running back, is going to miss another game for the Niners, but that doesn't matter because it seems like they could just use any running back they want and still have a productive day on the ground. By the way, shout out to the tough ass Ricky Pearsall, who wore the same Rolex that they tried to rob him for in San Francisco. That's hard. One of the biggest surprises last week was how the Vikings offense did with 2 of their new playmakers at quarterback and running back. Journeyman Sam Darnold had a productive day, throwing for 2 touchdowns and over 200 yards with a good QB rating. And Aaron Jones, the former Green Bay Packer, was productive on the ground. This guy was averaging 6.7 yards a carry. Granted, this was against the Giants, but the Giants were supposed to have a good pass rush with Kayvon Thibodeau and now Brian Burns. Now, Sam Darnold was a backup quarterback on the 49ers last year. Maybe he has some good intel about what they're trying to do, and he could feed that to the Vikings coaching staff. But if we're going to be real, I don't think it's going to matter. The 49ers are a Super Bowl contender this year, without a doubt. I do not think this will be a complete blowout, but I do have the 49ers winning this game 23-13. Easily on the road. For my yard dogs, I got Aaron Jones going higher than 49.5 rushing yards for the Minnesota Vikings. And for some reason, there's no one available for yards for the 49ers, so I'll take the higher on Brandon Ayuk at least having 1 touchdown. Next up, we have the New Orleans Saints traveling on the road to face the Dallas Cowboys. This is one of the biggest games of the week for me because I am a Fresno State Raiders fan who still hardcore roots for Derek Carr. And after this performance that the Saints had against the Carolina Panthers, I think that they could make a playoff run this year. You even had Derek Carr trash talking during this game, something you never see the guy do. Look, I get it. It's the Carolina Panthers, but anytime you score 47 points on any professional football team, I think it's a big deal. The Saints had an amazing defense last year, and they've just been waiting for their offense to click, and now it seems like it's all finally coming together, but the Cowboys will be a big test. Dak Prescott and Derek Carr I find very funny and similar because both of them, I believe, get unfairly criticized by their own fans. And what a coincidence, they both rock number 4. The Cowboys rubbed the Cleveland Browns the wrong way last week. Dak Prescott really didn't do much against that Browns defense, and the Cowboys offense settled for field goals a lot. In my opinion, this is going to be a night where Derek Carr absolutely wins over all those New Orleans Saints fans who booed him last year. I think this is going to be an incredibly exciting game, and I also believe the Cowboys will be caught off guard by the Saints. I have the Saints winning this game 30-27. Expect defenses to also have some big plays in this matchup. For my yard dogs, I am picking Rashid Shaheed, the number 2 wide receiver, to have over 34.5 receiving yards for the Saints. That is criminally low right there. And Ezekiel Elliott looks like he's going to be more involved than we initially thought. I'm picking the higher on him, getting 38.5 rushing yards. Next, we have the Seattle Seahawks traveling on the road to face the New England Patriots. Last week, the Patriots had the biggest upset of the week as they stunned Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. And they did this by running the football and having their veteran quarterback, Jacoby Brissett, barely throw at all. This dude only had 121 passing yards. However, this week is the week that we find out if head coach Gerard Mayo is the real deal. The Seahawks picked up the W against the Broncos and rookie quarterback Bo Nix. The score of their game is misleading because really the Broncos scored a touchdown in garbage time. However, the Seahawks still need to worry about their passing game. Geno Smith and the offensive line struggled in the first half, taking multiple safeties. I predict a close but boring low-scoring game. I have the Seahawks winning this matchup 17-13. For my yard dogs with the Patriots, I'm taking Ramondre Stevenson to have another big game going higher than 62.5 rushing yards. And you know what? I think we'll finally see DK Metcalf get going a little bit. I'm taking the higher on him, getting 54.5 receiving yards. The New York Giants travel to face the Washington Commanders. Last week, quarterback Daniel Jones struggled so much against the Vikings that he had fans heckling him after the game.
I need $1 million. I need $1 million. I need $1 million, Daniel. I need $1 million, Danny. I need $1 million.
Jones threw for 2 interceptions, and the Giants' run game was absolutely absent. Meanwhile, Giants fans had to watch Saquon Barkley absolutely ball out on the Eagles. The Commanders, led by rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels, were inefficient on defense and also could not get going throwing the football, but Jaden Daniels was able to show off his speed and make some big-time plays with his legs. Daniels was even voted Rookie of the Week. Could have been just because all the other rookies played so poorly. A shout out to Caleb Williams. But Jaden Daniels really needs to be more careful and avoid some of these big, nasty hits. Overall, I think the Commanders just have more optimism in their building than the New York Giants. The Giants are going to fall deeper downhill. I have them losing on the road in this game 20-17 against the Commanders. For my picks here, I'm taking the higher on Malik Neighbors in receptions, and I'm also going to go with Jaden Daniels having higher than 250.5 passing and rushing yards combined. They didn't have much available here in terms of receiving yards. The Los Angeles Chargers travel on the road to face the Carolina Panthers. Last week, the Chargers and head coach Jim Harbaugh stayed committed to the run game, and it paid off against the Raiders. However, this game was a lot closer than a lot of people think, but the Chargers will have an easier task this week, obviously against the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers are already projected to be one of the worst teams in the NFL again, unless of course the Saints are just really dominant and that's who they faced in week 1. Look, they also have a brand new head coach in Dave Canales. Maybe the Panthers Panthers just need to knock the rust off. I'm trying to be as generous as I can here. That is why I will say if the Panthers could contain the run on defense and if Bryce Young could eliminate some of these mistakes, then they may have a shot in this game. But if I'm going to be real, I do not see that happening at all whatsoever. If the Chargers are able to air the ball out in this game, which they were not able to do against the Raiders, then we will know just how trash the Panthers truly are this year. I have the Chargers winning this game, of course, 27-10. For my yard dogs, I'm picking Ladd McConkey to get going in receiving yards. I'm taking the higher on 43.5 receiving yards. And when it comes to the Panthers, I don't like any of the yards picks, so I'm going to take the higher on the rookie wide receiver Xavier Leggett, getting a touchdown here at least. The Cleveland Browns travel on the road to face the Jacksonville Jaguars. Last week, the Browns were absolutely destroyed by the Dallas Cowboys. The biggest story, though, is that quarterback Deshaun Watson is dealing with more allegations. The Browns are already struggling to protect their QB because they have two of their starting tackles out, and Deshaun Watson needs to knock that rust off. But now the Browns have even more drama that can distract them from this game. Like I mentioned earlier, the Jaguars actually had a good game against the Dolphins. Just a few mistakes late lost them the game. Despite all the drama, I still think that Cleveland will keep this game close because the Jaguars' front seven is not as talented as the Cowboys team that the Browns faced last week. But I gotta pick the Jags to win this game at home 23-17. For my yard dogs, I think Jerome Ford, the running back, is going to get higher than 48.5 rushing yards for the Cleveland Browns. And when it comes to the Jaguars, I like this pick of the rookie Brian Thomas going higher than 38.5 receiving yards. Whew, this is going to be rough for me. My Las Vegas Raiders travel on the road to face the Baltimore Ravens. So I'm going to enjoy my Sunday morning, potentially watching my favorite team get clapped by an AFC contender. But look, last week the Raiders were competitive in that game against the Chargers, and they could have won the game. The offense just choked in the second half, and head coach Antonio Pierce literally made an unprecedented bad decision, historically bad decision, punting on 4th and 1 with around 7 minutes to go in the game, down by 6 points in Chargers territory. It was historically conservative. This was a move where you play to lose, not play to win. And the worst thing is that the head coach, Antonio Pierce, is doubling down on that decision, saying, hey, the defense is the strength of the team. He's almost acting like he would do that decision again. Last week, the Ravens were one play away from tying the game against the Kansas City Chiefs. I think they would have had a more productive day if they didn't have all those odd illegal formation calls in the beginning of the game. But playing on the road in Kansas City is always tough. Lamar Jackson did make some mistakes in the air. Lamar seemed too desperate to beat the Chiefs, and I think this time against the Raiders, he's going to be more calm. The Ravens' weapons look great with wide receiver Zay Flowers and also the up-and-coming star tight end Isaiah Likely. That guy's a beast. Even though the odds are completely stacked against them, the Raiders still have a chance to win this game. If Lamar Jackson gets too aggressive and makes some turnovers, the Raiders could take advantage of that, especially if they find rhythm on offense with Gardner Minshew. But I think head coach Antonio Pierce of the Raiders is going to get outcoached again. Last week, he went up against Jim Harbaugh and the Chargers. Now he's facing the brother John Harbaugh and the Ravens. I'm sure the Harbaugh brothers are swapping notes on how to beat the Raiders. It pains me to do this, but I have to give accurate predictions here. I think I'm going to have to deal with an early morning ass whooping in Baltimore. The Raiders lose to the Ravens 13-30. Hopefully my guys can improve once they start facing some easier opponents. For my yard dogs, I'm going all in on tight ends. Let's pick the higher for the Ravens tight end Isaiah Likely, going higher than 35.5 receiving yards here. And also, let's go ahead and look for our guy Brock Bowers. Where's my guy Brock Bowers? Have him going higher than 34.5 receiving yards. I think these are some easy picks in this game. Next up, we have the Los Angeles Rams traveling to face the Arizona Cardinals. Last week, the Cardinals started off off hot against the Buffalo Bills, but they allowed them to come back. The Cardinals had a shot to win the game with 30 seconds left late in the fourth quarter, but Kyler Murray could not see Marvin Harrison Jr., the rookie first-round pick, for the game-winning touchdown. And Murray already seems irritated with the press. They're bringing that criticism. Personally, I thought the Rams looked great in that overtime matchup against the Detroit Lions last week, but they lost Puka Nacua to IR on this game, and also their starting tackle Noteboom. If the Rams could take advantage of a suspect Cardinals defense early, then I think they put this game away. But I still think the Cardinals are going to surprise some people this year, man. I picked Arizona to beat the Bills last week, and they narrowly lost. So I'm going to double down and pick the Cardinals to beat the Rams this week in a nail-biter 28-27. For my yard dogs with the Cardinals, everybody's sleeping on wide receiver Greg Dortch. I'm taking the higher on 31.5 receiving yards. No Puka Nacua for the Rams. That means I'm going higher on 43.5 receiving yards for Mr. Demarcus Robinson. The Steelers travel to face the Denver Broncos. It looks like we're going to get robbed of our revenge game between Russell Wilson and Sean Payton. We were shocked last week to find out that Russell Wilson's calf is still bothering him. So the Pittsburgh Steelers were led by the former Bears first-round pick quarterback Justin Fields. And Fields led the team to a victory against the Atlanta Falcons. You got to give him credit. Last week, the Broncos defense were able to make some plays in the passing game against a suspect Seahawks offensive line. But it seems like offensively, it's going to take some time for rookie quarterback Bo Nix to get on the same page with his receivers in Sean Payton's offense. In my opinion, the Broncos offense has way too tough of a task against that Steelers defense. Pittsburgh also showed last week that they are going to be committed to the run game with Justin Fields. Meanwhile, the Broncos struggled against the run game against the Seahawks. You know what? I have the Steelers absolutely clapping the cheeks of the Denver Broncos. I'm saying that they're going to win 20-13. For my yard dogs, I personally do not like any pick in this game. So this is the first time in history, but we're going to skip this one. The Cincinnati Bengals travel on the road to face the Kansas City Chiefs. This game, unfortunately, is no longer exciting, especially after the Bengals laid an egg against the New England Patriots. And this is going to be even tougher because it's a back-to-back home game for the Kansas City Chiefs. Joe Burrow's new Slim Shady hairdo may actually be making him worse. The lack of a contract extension for Jamar Chase could be making the wide receiver less enthusiastic to play for the Cincinnati Bengals. Who knows, man? Maybe Joe Burrow just got lucky that one year he made the Super Bowl because the Bengals had so many weapons. That's no longer the case. Either way, the Chiefs seem like they did not miss a beat at all whatsoever against the Baltimore Ravens. But we now know that Brittany Mahomes supports Donald Trump and Taylor Swift has endorsed Kamala Harris. So maybe we can have a political divide in the locker room that finally takes down the Chiefs. I'm freaking begging for this. But I got to keep it real, and so I'm picking the Chiefs to win this game easily 27-20 against the Bengals. For my yard dogs, it looks like Rashee Rice is going to be the #1 receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm taking the higher on 67.5 receiving yards. And with Higgins questionable, the Bengals have no other option than Jamar Chase. I'm taking the higher on 71.5 receiving yards for that receiver. Sunday Night Football, baby. The Chicago Bears travel to face the Houston Texans. Caleb Williams struggled in his rookie debut against the Titans. The nail polish did not fire him up like we initially thought it would. He did not even surpass 100 yards in the air. The takeaway is that Caleb Williams is not going to be an outlier as a rookie. Just like everybody else, he's going to have some rookie growing pains. Luckily, the Bears defense was able to bail him out against the Titans. Last week against the Colts, the Houston Texans picked up where they left off from last year and were absolutely dominant on offense. Now they have even more ammo loaded up with Joe Mixon on the ground, and you had Stephon Diggs, new wide receiver, getting 2 touchdowns of his own. The main issue is that the Texans defense seems liable to give up big plays in the air. They did it last week against the Colts, giving up 2 big plays of 50+ yards. However, I'm not confident that the Bears offense is going to be able to set up the run enough in order to take those deep shots like the Indianapolis Colts. So on Sunday Night Football, I have the Houston Texans beating the Chicago Bears 28-20. For my yard dogs, I'm picking DJ Moore to have higher than 62.5 receiving yards with the Bears. And when it comes to the Houston Texans, I think that Nico Collins Rollins is going to do the dirty work and get higher than 66.5 receiving yards for the Texans. We have made it to our final game. I cannot believe this is happening right now. The Atlanta Falcons travel to face the Philadelphia Eagles on Monday Night Football. Look, man, the Atlanta Falcons offense was disappointing in Kirk Cousins' debut. It definitely seems like Cousins is not healed from that torn Achilles. And you saw the Falcons take almost all their snaps from the shotgun or the pistol. They refused to have Kirk Cousins move at all. I'm calling it right now. We are going to see Michael Penix Jr. start this year. Last week in Brazil, the Philadelphia Eagles offense struggled. Jalen Hurts had a turnover on back-to-back drives against the Packers. But their defense was consistent most of the game, and Jalen Hurts eventually got comfortable, and you even saw him later on make some big plays with his legs. The Eagles' new running back from the Giants, Saquon Barkley, looks like he's going to make this team even more dominant than they were early on last year. And honestly, I'm going to give Jalen Hurts a pass on some of those mistakes. It was a slippery field out there in Brazil, and the Eagles had the longer flight. I think the guy was jet lagged. He had like an 8-hour flight. But this time, the Eagles are going to be at home in prime time. And I'm going to tell you right now, I never ever bought into the Atlanta Falcons offseason hype. I truly believe the Falcons are going to get absolutely destroyed in this game. I haven't seen anybody else have this prediction, and I'm calling it right now. The Eagles are going to beat the Falcons at home 34-14 on Monday Night Football. For my yard dogs, I'm expecting some big plays for Devontae Smith, wide receiver of the Eagles, going higher than 58.5 receiving yards. And Bijan Robinson had a good amount of targets last week. I'm going to be aggressive here and take the higher on rushing and receiving yards for Mr. Bijan Robinson and the Falcons. And now I'm dropping $100 on a 5-player pick'em for a chance to win $2,000. I freaking barely lost by 1 player last week. I think I'm going to get it this week. I got Demarcus Robinson going higher than 43.5 receiving yards. Ladd McConkey going higher than 43.5 receiving yards. Greg Dortch of the Cardinals going higher than 31.5 receiving yards. Isaiah likely going higher than 35.5 receiving yards. And Rashid Shaheed going higher than 34.5 receiving yards. $100 in on this. If I win it, I get $2,000. Let me know if you enjoy these prediction videos. My name is Wi-Fi Willie. Peace out, and I hope you have a good one.